So can you please state your name and your part of in the project?
Yes, my name is John Bosselman. I am the teacher. I teach 12th grade English and 12th grade government. The inspiration is, I think there's two pieces to it. The first one is the content. And so the content comes from when I was student teaching in New Hampshire. And we had to design a 2-week curriculum unit where we had to create something that we were interested in and find lessons and activities to do with it as we go through. So the content comes from that. The gender content that we looked at was through research that I did when I was a graduate student at the University of New Hampshire. The project part, though, is interesting because it really grew from when the students received the project handout to what you're going to see in the final product. So my student teacher and I spent a lot of time thinking about how we wanted the project to be.
We were sitting in a coffee shop at San Diego State during your college visit to the library, and we thought that it would be a great idea to go ahead and do the same thing, not only with regards to the end of semester project, with the digital book, but also in discussing all of the gender issues that are very apparent in society today.
It's the images that you're going to see are really framed around the Post Secret project. That is a blog that's online. And what it is that people put their secrets onto a postcard and they send it in, and the manager of it posts them, and he also has written a few books with the people's postcards. So it's not that, but it is modeled on that. And so what you're going to see are images that students created that kind of tell secrets of gender, secrets that people either know or secrets people don't know about gender.
A lot of the information that was put out having to do with gender and how it affects, how the media affects us, I think it was a great topic to look at from the perspective of young students, because I think that the more educated you are about how media impacts gender identity and the way that we view ourselves, provides us with a better weapon against, things like all of the isms, like sexism, perhaps even racism, I don't know. But I think that it's really important that students are exposed to the way that their lives can be manipulated by others, specifically the media.
I did this project, or a shorter version of it, a few years ago here at High Tech High, my first year here. This year, though, I embedded it into my English course. And so for English, it's English and sociology. So we read a bunch of different articles about women and men. Also, with child development, we read some works from William Pollock, the known Harvard researcher, and then from Mary Piper, who also wrote a book about women and girls. And we read those pieces, but then we also read it alongside the picture of Dorian Gray. So we looked at a piece of literature and what we learn about gender, or how does gender affect our lives. And from there, that was the content piece. And we then presented to the students, this is what we want to do. And the book was supposed to be just a collection of images with artist statements. But when the students received the project handout, we did a critique in class of the handout, a project tuning, if you will. And we made use of Google Docs, and we had a chat option open, we had a post-it note option open, and students got a chance to really discuss the topic and the project and what they felt would best showcase their learning. The idea being, we want to take the content you've learned and transform it into something new and something beautiful. So the 200-word short story that you're going to read actually came about from a group of students who said, what if we wrote stories instead? And there's a movement right now with 200-word short stories and lots of competitions that are going on. And so we decided we'd start there with 200-word short stories. And then someone said too, like, oh, what if we narrow it down to a 6-word short story? So in the book, you're going to find images that students created. All are original images. And students photographed each other. They used Photoshop. They used other various programs to create those images. And you're also going to find a 200-word short story that the student wrote that connects back to the image, as well as a 6-word short story that's in there. And the book's entirely created and designed by students. My student teacher and I really have only had involvement with regards to setting up the departments and setting up students in different groups. But the students have been editors. They have been the ones who have designed the layout. They've made decisions about what goes in the book, where it goes in the book, the introduction, the table of contents, how we market it, how we publicize. All of these things have been done by students, and students have been working in departments to try and figure all those things out. So it's one of the great things about this project, in my eyes, is that it's really student-driven. Students have had a chance to find what they're interested in most in the content and turn that into a product. But then they've also had a chance, too, to explore something else with that, whether that be layout of a book, whether that be recording interviews, whether that be website and marketing, Facebook, and how to use Facebook to publicize something. Those other things that are also involved there have been something that students have been working a lot on.
My name is Raina Kim. For the Gender Project, I'm one of the editors-in-chiefs along with Sonia Cash.
Right, well, my duties as the editor-in-chief, basically I oversee all the departments. We have marketing, we have copy design, we have editors, we have copy editors, we have a bunch of different departments that both Raina and I oversee. She's my co-editor-in-chief.
As co-editor-in-chief, my job is to pretty much look over all the departments and make sure everything is running smoothly. Sonia and I are the ones who are making the big decisions with the layout, the company we're using, what's going to go into the ebook.
And we basically tell people what to do. No, and we help them out if they have any questions, and they ask us what needs to get done, and then we illustrate that for them, and they take that from there.
We like to include everyone in the class and get their opinion on everything, but we're the ones who are kind of the mediators between the class and John and Ruben. So we're the ones who are getting the input of the students, but taking it in and making sure that everything will work, and then telling John and Ruben, and then having the final project revolve around the decisions that we make.
This project is a way to show people that society's standards of gender is not, it affects people. And it's a way for people to, especially in our class, to express that. And I feel like there's a standard that we all have to live by, and it's a way to break out of that standard and a way to show other people how we broke out of that standard.
We're using a bunch of social mediums. We're using social networks, flyers, posters, and we're going to be advertising at various places, handing out business cards and flyers. Basically, what we're trying to do is trying to get our project out to everyone so that we can have a larger audience. And we're also implementing a barcode. So if you are familiar, if you have like Android or an iPhone, you can scan that barcode and it'll give you a direct link to our book. So that's basically what we're working on, and we're hoping that by doing this we can expand our audience so that everyone can see the message that we as a class are trying to send.
My name is Victor Flores, and I am part of the copy editing department. What we do is we grab all the things created by my classmates and we put it together into one big document. We're basically compiling the whole project together.
I think what we're trying to portray with the book is that each individual has their story that's below the surface that isn't necessarily always told. And so what the book kind of does is give light to what's going on underneath, even if, like, my story was fictional, but some other people took influences from their own life and implemented them into their stories.
I think learning about this was very important because you see it everywhere in our media. If you turn on TV, if you browse through a website, if you look at a video, if you go to see a movie, you'll see this present in all of those things.
So it's kind of a look into what's hidden in everyone's lives, and I think it's really important because people stereotype based on people's traits and when they don't really know what's happening inside of that person.
So my story is basically about peer pressure and how it usually doesn't pay off in the end because I have a lot of family members that do things that are considered cool or did things that are considered cool.
Well, my 200-word story is about this football player who just gave the performance of a lifetime, and him and the rest of the football team are in the locker room after the game, and everyone's like cheering, and then he starts to sing because he's like in the moment and he feels like really happy that they won. and then when he starts singing, someone calls him a very offensive word. The message I wanted to portray was that singing or performing, like in the arts, isn't necessarily seen as a masculine thing to do.
About a girl who feels pressured by the media, which is pretty much most girls around, and she doesn't feel like pretty enough. And it's pretty much describing what she feels about how people describe her and how people like tell her, oh, you're so pretty, but yet she looks in the mirror and she sees something completely opposite because she compares herself to like this look that TV and internet and all these people like give her that she's supposed to look like, and she doesn't. My image is kind of complicated. It's not really that complicated. It's the girl, or I represent it as myself, holding up a picture of herself when she's younger and who she really is. And then in the background is all these images from girls, from like models to actresses. And I went around asking girls what girls they would rather look like, or is their role model, and they told me, and from there I grabbed onto pictures and I modified them and I put them in the background because that's what girls believe they should look like themselves.
After learning about the mask of masculinity, I realized that like guys pretend to be okay when they're not. So I basically just like wrote a really quick thing about how I feel about school. I put the word gay in my story because I felt like it was really, like, I feel like people call other people gay for little things that aren't really gay. It's just being a human. So I chose that because I didn't, like, guys don't talk about things because they don't want to be seen as gay. So that's what my story was about. My image was a picture of a guy like sad, like a shadow of him, and then in front of him there was really big words that said "I'm fine," and I chose that because like it's showing like the shadow is just like something we don't really see, so it's like the guy's sad but he's always gonna say he's fine because he's never gonna admit that he's not.
My story is, it's basically talking about how to put it simply, how people, when they listen to different music, you don't really think about what's going on really, it's just how it sounds. You know, it sounds cool. And for me, I happen to like heavier type music, and a lot of the time people's first reaction to it is kind of like, what is this crap? But really, what I listen to at least, what they're saying comes with a lot of passion and a lot of meaning. And I can see if you don't understand it, then it's like, alright, whatever. But understand something before you say you hate it. I could see if you hate it just because of how it sounds, but you can't hate the meaning if you don't know what the meaning is. The picture is like a collage of a bunch of different pictures of live shows, and then in the middle there's a guy that's like has his hands up in like worship.
All the things that we've learned kind of help us to understand parts that we didn't before, like how people view things like the dream world, and how people view women based upon the media and like social interactions and stuff. And so it's kind of eye-opening to see just how the world views women, or based upon media and stuff like that.
I think that I would just say, for most people, think about what you're doing or what you're going to do before you do it, because a lot of it has a bigger impact than you think it would, or makes a bigger difference than you think it would, or just has a different answer completely. And it's basically taking into consideration what could happen, what could come of what you're doing.